Hey there, welcome to this tutorial series on JavaScript. I'll be talking about ES6 and the many improvements that happened since then. So ES6 itself comes from the name ECMAScript, which is the original name of JavaScript, and we're talking about the 6th edition. If you look at this table here below, you'll see that there were some iterations over the last years, specifically since 2015, and actually before. A lot of things happened to JavaScript. There were some gaps since the original creation, not much happened in between, and starting from ES6, which is the edition from 2015, a lot of things changed. And I will talk about those improvements. Maybe some of them you're using already, some of them you might not know yet, so let's see where we get. Alright, let's get started with variable and constant declaration in JavaScript. So before we had ES6, we used the keyword var to define a variable. So let's take an example, city, Vienna. This is actually where I'm from, and let's print it out. So on the right side you will see the results of the current script. So Vienna is the city. I printed it out, everything is fine. The interesting part about var is that you can actually redeclare it. So if I would set it to Rome and print it out, then you'll see cities coming out and Rome as well. And as you can imagine, this is not really optimal, because redeclaring a variable can cause all sorts of bugs that are really hard to catch. So this is something that it's not really good, but this is how it used to be. Even if you would have a block scope here, so let's say we have a fictional if statement where the result is true in the if expression, and if I would to redeclare the variable, let's say London in this case, and print it out, then I get London here, obviously. And now let's check out what happens if I print it after this block statement. And the interesting thing is, it says London again. So even though we are in a block scope here, redeclaring this variable, it's still overriding this original value of city. So this is something that leads to a lot of problems, and we're so thankful that we have ES6 now, okay? So with ES6, what's changed? Let me just print out a separator here, so we get this extra line here to separate content. All right, so what changed? First of all, let's start with let, because this is the closest thing to var. So if I would redeclare city now, it will be a problem, because it will tell me identifier city has already been declared. So this is a big no-no, and we don't want to go there. So let's start over with something else. Let's have a country, Austria in my case, and if we print it out, we get to see Austria. So this is the old output, this is the new output. Let's go on. So if I would try to redeclare it to Italy now, you will see that this will be a problem too, because identifier country has already been declared. We know that. But what we can do instead is we can override the value like this. It's still a variable, right? So we change it from Austria to Italy, and if we print it out, we get to see Italy. Now let's try the same thing as before with the block scope. So we have our fictional if expression here with true. And let's try to override the country, and this time we're gonna use India, and let's print it out. Let's see what happens. So before that, it will just overwrite the original value. It will let it redeclare. Here in this case we saw that you can't redeclare country again. What will happen now? So if I save it, it prints out India, because with let and const, the new keywords that are the new keywords that you use in JavaScript with ES6, you get to have the benefit of block scopes. So variables inside a block scope like this, the curly braces here, are living in their own space. So this country has nothing to do with that country. Just to prove my point, I will print out the country again. And if you look at this, you'll get Austria, Italy, then India, because we are in our own block scope. And then it doesn't stay with India as before with var, but it will be Italy as it's still in the outer scope. Okay? Cool. So this is how we use let in this case. Let's have a look at const. So const is used for constants, obviously. So if you have variables that are immutable, you will use const in this case. And it is really the preferred way of doing things. As often as you can, try to stick to const, and only in cases when you really need to change the content of the variable, then resort to let. So if you look at this again, of course, I can't just redeclare the country as a const, because it will tell me immediately identify country has already been declared. Yes, we did that here before, so we can't do that. So let's go back and use something else, continent, in this case Europe, and let's print it out. What do we get? We get Europe here, perfect. Now obviously if I will try to redeclare this to Asia, it will break as well, because it will say identify content has already been declared. Yes, we did that here. And to prove the point of the constant, I will try to redefine continent, and it will tell me assignment to constant variable. So we are not allowed to do that. Great. If I will go into our if expression again and try the same thing here, and this time I say Asia, then things start to work. Because as I mentioned before, we get our block scope here. So this continent is not the same as this continent. I think this should clarify how and when to use const and let, and for var I don't think there's much sense to go on with. And you can also go to Mozilla Developer Network. I will put links into the description so you can check out const, let and var for yourself with all the things that it provides. And one more thing, I will put this on GitHub and I'll provide you with a link in the description so you can check it out yourself, play around with let and const and see how it behaves. And as I mentioned before, this will be a series of short video tutorials, so stay tuned, there's more to come. And if you enjoyed it, I would really love a like and a subscribe, and catch you in the next video. Until then, I wish you as always bug-free code.